Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And the chart I have for today, I'm going to try and do it by heart because I have a little bit of difficulty with the lives. I recorded the live today, but it won't let me do the second live. And I just noticed that alongside with me, there's another person in the world that's having a Pluto square Pluto. There's already amidst the Pluto square Pluto, and this is leader Kim Jong Un. And when I do Spirit of Matter episode, all the scary faces, all the scared faces around me, as I tend to that, as I do Spirit of Matter, you must understand I did not pre-look at his biography, anything about him, okay? I just know he's leader of North Korea, we're coming from a dynasty of leaders, that's it. I don't know anything about Kim Jong-un, head of North Korea. So, and this is for the purpose of doing astrology, and this is the reasoning that I do this. So, and the way I look is tropical point of view. We don't have ascendant for Kim Jong-un. And let me read you the chart, okay? And the chart goes like this. He has Chiron 22 degrees Taurus on my lot of spirit, and he has Lilith 22 degrees Capricorn, okay? He has Mars 22 degrees Aquarius, which is exactly opposing my retrograde 22 degrees Mars in Scorpio. He has 29 degree Pluto in Libra. That means he's amidst his Pluto square right now. And he has Moon in Scorpio. We don't have the exact degree. And Saturn, not Saturn. This I don't remember if it is. Yes, Saturn in Scorpio. Of course it is Saturn. He was born a little bit before me, or after me. No, before me. And Saturn, his Saturn is in Scorpio. 3 degrees, okay? So it means that he has a Pluto conjunct Saturn in his natal chart. This is a man who is equipped to live in times of financial distress. So yes, this is important. Yet 1984, he's born in 1984. He has Uranus 7 degrees Sag right on my Ketu. So that was interesting. His Pluto, Pluto, I said. Neptune, yes, it's Neptune. I think is already in Capricorn, right? Neptune already in Capricorn. Venus squares Pluto. So Venus is, I think, at the beginning. Venus is with Mercury, 2 degrees Aquarius, where Pluto is already gone over, and is natally squaring Pluto. This means he has Mercury squares Pluto. Okay, I am Mercury opposing Pluto, which may mean that the composite has the trine, and I'm going to hone in on that because separately each of us is not such a good communicator, but perhaps the composite can bring good communication. So first of all, what is the Pluto square Pluto? Pluto square Pluto is a sort of a midlife crisis. We go through it around our 40s, some still in their 30s, especially the Pluto Scorpio generation, where it's moving very fast. And I see the singing bothering us. Let's try to delineate this. Right now they're basically screaming, and this is religious people singing. So yes, and I have to cross myself here in the bathroom so you wouldn't hear them singing. Just one of these things that's happening right now. I have, Kim Jong Un has Venus squares Pluto. I have Venus opposing Pluto. My Pluto in the 9th house. So you hear all this overwhelming voice of religious singing, and I had to close myself in the bath. Let's see how this goes. So this is so meta. What is the Pluto square? It's basically a hard Pluto transit to your natal Pluto, where you are required to look at all of your traumas. This is just getting vicious. I have to get out. Because now I have, my God, look at this. Now I have my cat voice, and I have to find my shoes. This is amazing. Like, I haven't seen so many disturbances to an episode. We're gonna try and do this. Then I'm gonna try to go outside and record for you this episode. So you see, there is some constriction of vocal constrictions because my cat began to mew in the bathroom when I had to go out. And now, funnily enough, yes, and so that you wouldn't see exactly where the place, I have to hold my phone against my thigh. This episode is already entertaining to begin with. And again, I don't have a sentence, I don't have new heaven. I have to walk like a silly person, and not to show too much of the vicinity of the place of where I live. And you see, we talk about Pluto square Pluto, which for him would mean this Pluto is also conjuncting his Venus, triggering the Venus-Mercury opposition. And for me, it is squaring my Venus. Okay, wider square, wider orb, but you saw how, because of vocal constrictions, the direction, okay, of what I take in life, and I had to withstand through this. Whoa. The phone just fell. Okay, and I had to withstand through this. This is all relevant to the episode. So, what happens? Outer conditions cause an internal transformation where you have to pull through and execute, okay, what you came here to do, and deal with all of that, and not let the external conditions, okay, wear you down. And look at me recording an episode about Kim Jong Un. And so he's 40, right? Around 40, 41, my age. And he's one of the strongest figures in the world right now. Ruling of country with many, many restrictions. So, and recently, which is the reason I did this episode, he had to send troops, okay, to participate very, very literally in a world war, okay, but not only that, a part of his Pluto square Pluto is North Korea, I believe, is welcomed and is a part of the BRICS. So this very isolated country with a leader whose face we knew only as the scary leader that oppresses people. This is what his reputation was up until now. We didn't get to know another Kim Jong Un for the West. Is now going through major transformations, but basically he is having more international power in the arena that requires for him to pull through and change in ways that are response to the external conditions. As that's what we see right now. It's almost a birthing. Okay, if I take a look at where, but just the passage of me walking from this episode while recording this. So I was in the porch, there was singing, religious people singing, overwhelming. I realized you won't be able to hear me. I went and closed myself in the bathroom, and then my cat began to enter and began to mew, and I had to get out. I had to hold the phone to my thigh so you don't get to see like exactly for where I live. And then all this through while continuing doing this episode. Okay? So this is how you generate a voice, and with him is also relevant is a voice, his own voice through the constrictions. Is actually what it does is not tearing him down, but pushing him forward to deliver on his voice. And now is in the international arena. For this is a leader that up until then was of a very closed country, and now he has friends. Okay, he has people of power that he is operating within. He has a part of the BRICS. So the economy is changing. Pluto, deeply economy. And it requires for a different type of thinking as leader, different type of cooperation, different type of standards. Okay? He breaks through for his isolation with the world. But this also means that he has to send troops that will inevitably change the face of North Korea forever. Okay, as I talked about yesterday, when you send hundreds of hundreds of hundred thousands of people from a very isolated place to a completely different, whether it's architecture, whether it's the labels on the water, the type of food, the type of land, soil, the people, the language. Okay, none of them, and it was very closed country. Okay, not hardly anybody gets out, hardly anybody gets in. All of that is changed, but is also receiving the support of being a part of an economic system. So this is tremendous change for North Korea, and of course tremendous change. This is the Pluto square for Kim Jong Un. Okay, you're no longer the expelled, isolated, the person that everybody only sees as the scary leader. Now you're a part of a team in a growing economy, okay, the BRICS, a part of a polarity that perhaps even threatened to overwhelm the Western polarity. It's not exactly polarity, I talked about the Vatican, but for what it looks like in the world, it is, and it's a different thing. Okay, now if there is a war and Russia needs troops, okay, it's a different behavior. Now you are a part of a legion, and you have to contribute or to show your power and value. You also have to bring value to this economic participation, okay, not just to be benefactor. What will be of the economy of North Korea? Because when we talk about BRICS, we talk about completely different economy. It means that the coin of the country is not just the coin of North Korea. So you're open to markets and you're open to economy in ways like never before. Okay? And mind you, this is not capitalism. just like Russia before the falling of the Soviet Union, okay? Lenin's, I don't remember what was it, NPD, I don't remember what it was, okay? But Lenin's economic programs, they were not, the New Deal. But definitely, as per North Korea, we're talking about unprecedented opening of the economy. Everything, all the thinking, it's like you became a billionaire and now you have to manage of how to manage billions. Okay? Yes. And it's completely different thinking. And so it's one of the most major Pluto squares of the century, I think. I think it's fair to say this is the Pluto square of the century, where a leader that was very strong, very prominent, but in the world very isolated and very unsupported, becomes a part of the theme and matures into growing and developing his country that was very isolated into a part of an economic team that is the growing economic strength in the world. Right now, we still haven't had the West having its say, but we also don't want necessarily the West having its say, okay? And so, for the political behavior that is required of a leader in such position, is both a leader of war and opening the economy from very, very closed and constricted to economies. Okay, we think about China, when you think about Russia. China is not so open, okay, it's more alleviating, okay, it's not like United States. We could trade with United States anytime. Okay, Russia, and you think about the abundance. If you go to Moscow, not to Moscow, if you go to a rural place in Russia and you go to a cafe, it's very likely you will have delicacies from the world. And I know this from people who traveled to Russia. I didn't have the honor because I need to speak the language and I didn't learn Russian. But the abundance that you have is varieties. You can find food from everywhere in the world in Russia. The infrastructure, okay, being taken care of. There are a lot of things about Russia that we don't know. Okay, it's a very strong country, very powerful country. Yes, from us, from the West, if you're LGBTQ, then you probably would prefer to travel elsewhere. But for other things, it's also a very strong country. Now to be a part of that, you have to keep up to speed. Okay, you can't have people coming, and very likely people would want to visit North Korea, especially from the BRICS countries more, because even as thank you, okay, even as to support their economy, if let's say the Russians that get assistance from the North Korean army, then of course the family would travel to vacation in North Korea. It makes sense. And so North Korea has to keep up to speed. It has to change completely the everything of everythingness of North Korea. North Korea 10 years from now is not going to be the same, anything like what we saw. I have no idea what is Kim Jong Un planning and is required for him to work in participation and to work as a part of a team more so than that image. And this is completely different branding for a leader. Completely different structure. If you think about China, the structure of China, okay, after Mao, they completely transformed the structure of the party and the government so that it's so decentralized that not single person can take up the whole China, okay, through the structure of the party, the way you would see North Korea, that is very Mao-like in that sense, not at all the same, which is Kim Jong-un is North Korea and North Korea is Kim Jong-un, that you don't see in China. So you will have also people, tourists wanting to come from China, even to pay tribute. Okay, when you have communion in economy, then it makes sense. Okay, just like when you had the European Union, then people from the East came to work with the West, but also people could have a free, the Germans love to travel in their 2 weeks vacation in the summer. So now it would not only be Italy or Greece, it can also be Bulgaria, it can also be later Armenia, Albania, okay, all kinds of countries that you haven't been to before and now are opening. And so I guess North Korea might go through such procedure, and then you will have people coming from China, and those cultural interchanges are not as in proximity than we might think they are. So it requires for North Korea to open up. It requires for Kim Jong Un to open up and become a leader of the big world. Okay, completely different role than the role that he was assigned up to date now. And those international relationships, Venus, is something that is unprecedented. We have not seen anything like it in this century. Nothing like it. Okay? For even if we had, let's say, totalitarian regimes or Czechoslovakia or stuff like that, even then it was not anywhere near North Korea Kim Jong-un. So there's a grand opening for Kim Jong-un. I will look at chart of North Korea if I can find it later. But this is the Pluto, like when I see this Pluto square, anybody on the Pluto square, okay, anybody in the 40s, if you're having a bad day, look at Kim Jong-un's Pluto square. Why? It's not because it's bad. It's actually very, essentially it's very good for him, because he is becoming a leader of the great world. No longer this isolated country, but the adaptation is completely transforming everything that he's ever thought, everything that he ever did, everything that he never got to do, he can get to do now, in the sense of opening the economy, having people come to North Korea, having people live in North Korea. Completely different scheme, completely different everything, and it's very, very likely it's going to be exciting for him too, because we're going to get to see a Kim Jong-un that we didn't get to see. Okay, we're going to get to see perhaps more of his speeches. We get, just as I clicked at one, I was taking like the picture for this episode, and the article was talking about suddenly another, a very courteous Kim Jong-un that is funny and charming and very respectable in society. Kind of like he likes to smoke, but he didn't smoke in the meeting, and all these things. Okay, we're gonna see a side of him that we never got to see. So the Pluto square actually allows him to open up a little and not have to always play this role of the oppressor, of the person that everybody has to worship or else to maintain his power. And this is a great chance for opening worldly relations. It does trigger the Venus square Pluto, where when it comes to the relation to women, to wealth, to cooperation, okay, he's very likely going to have to deal with a lot of pressure, okay, to open his country. Okay, you want to be a part of the BRICS, you are a part, you're welcome. And what the expectation is, okay, we want to bring money to your country, okay? We want to travel in your country, so there are going to be women traveling, so there are going to be men and women kissing in the street, so there are going to be people walking in parks. They're going to want to see something, okay? They want to be maybe a park, maybe a theater, or something to do. And through this economy is also required. And then the North Korean people, they would want to go to China. They want to be able to go to China, to Russia, to all these countries, to Iran, okay, but to visit. And we're going to see a lot of opening that we haven't seen before, that is very exciting. So I'm very excited for basically for Kim Jong-un himself and for North Korea, and knowing that even massive success is a crisis sometimes, because you have to adapt. Okay, let's say tomorrow I had to meet, I don't know, the King of England. I don't know the etiquette. I don't know with what fork to eat. I don't know if I don't have the clothes to wear. I didn't do the facial, the hair, the anything, nothing. I don't have anything prepared. So you think about being closed off in your own country and having some meetings, going some places and so on, and then having to open your whole house, okay? To open your entire house. If I had to host a diplomatic meeting in my home, I would have to take a cleaning person. I would have to fix things, fix the walls, and fix like many things that when you live alone or with your friends, it's kind of like, well, it's a frat apartment of the student life, and it's like, no, you have to hold a place to be dignified enough, and you're expected because you meet at that person's house, then you meet at that person's house. So you think about the country, okay? People are going to expect, okay, so what theater are we seeing? So what show are we seeing? Are there plays, okay, whether it's football plays or whether it's, I don't know, horses matches or anything that people, golf, I don't know, anything that people do, what we're going to do in North Korea. And then for the people of North Korea, wanting also to have something like what the Russians have, something like what the Chinese have. So this is so important, so exciting. A country opening up like this is incredibly something that we really unprecedented to this century. Okay? And yet we understand that this takes time, this takes process, and it would also bring the antithetical desire to keep it like it was. Think about the many touristic cities where the local people are like, enough of these tourists. Red light districts in Netherlands, before the tourists that came from Romania, from this, from that, there were the women and there were the men, and everybody knew everybody, and it was a local thing, and that's it. And then came all of these people, and they don't always know how to treat the woman. And if you throw them into the canal, now you have an international. The man would be in the canal, okay? If a man would mistreat a woman before these things, that another man would throw him in the canal and bye-bye. But you do that with the Romania, and now you're in problems with Romania. So it is all those intrigues that are also coming upon opening of a diplomatic relationship, but think not a city or a neighborhood, but an entire country. So the good part, absolutely, we're going to see a different North Korea. And for Kim Jong Un, we're going to see different Kim Jong Un. Okay? Not having to be the frightening person all the time, but can also be a charming person, can also be collegial, can also be let out some of his persona that perhaps he wasn't able to show before, or even if he did try to show it before and there was no one to, it was freedom of speech, not reach, right? that, In a previous episode, I think I laughed about it, that, you see people are like Geert Wilders, but his cat space is very likely shadow banned on X. And so this is such a pivotal time. Just this Pluto square. It does trigger the square he has, the natal square he has for Mercury and Venus, which will mean for him that he needs to find the energy of the trine, okay? So basically what you do is, just like I do these episodes, I have natal Venus and Mercury opposition Pluto. I do this on astrosig.com naturally, and when I did the founder's natal chart, Peter's natal chart, then I saw that he has natal Pluto trine Venus. So he's bringing the natal Pluto trine Venus, and that helped transform a lot of things for me, but just doing the astrology through this chart. So it can be some simple remediation like this that can open up, and usually when we have hard aspects, that we are surrounded by harmonious aspects to tap into. If we are aware, then we can take advantage of this, and so that can very well assist in the process, because What the trouble is for the communication that as a natal Mercury hard aspect to Pluto, I can say the problem is to deliver a message without making an enemies. And so if he can remediate for that and bring in the energies of the trine, then that can be very, very useful. Okay. His Mars is on 22nd degree of Aquarius, and this is, again, he has 3 planets on degree of to kill and be killed. Naturally, we understand it very likely, much like Trump, he was born and raised to be in position where he would be killing a lot of people, or else he's killed. And this is in the natal chart, so this has not changed. Okay. Unfortunately, this survivalistic and with Chiron, that has not changed. So yes, because again, as a man is 40, very likely, so he has 10 years until the Chiron on the 22nd is tended to, and Lilith on the 22nd, and Mars on the 22nd. Okay, so those are difficult positions. I think prevention of assassination, what I'm doing with my 22 retrograde Mars is tending to prevention of assassination, tending to cold cases, but even that is, okay, we still have a life to live. So that is still on. And indeed, we saw that the part of this opening immediately was required to send for an army, Mars, massive army, into a war to assist Russia, okay, to assist Putin, that you wouldn't think would need assistance, right? And so he's required, and you understand the intricacy. Well, now, yes, he helps, but because he can help Putin, now he's threatening, okay? Because his participation in the economy is not like, oh, let's open the roads of North Korea, let's do infrastructure changes, let's open the culture, so together with the economy, but it's also, good morning, you're welcome. Hey, we're in a world war. Come, send your troops to get killed. And naturally, it is posing yet another challenge, but we see this 22 Mars here where his participation, his action is in basically assisting in mass killing, which is war. And through this, he's both becoming more prominent in the world arena as a person that can send and train army to, and is the Tao that you can name, okay? When it comes to 100,000 people from North Korea, soldiers killing people in the field with whatever what their army ethics is, which we don't know because we've never seen North Korea at war. Okay, we've seen with South Korea, but we haven't seen a genuine big army of North Korea in Europe, unprecedented. And so several surprising things can happen, okay? One surprising thing, if we don't know about the technology, they may have more technology than we know. Another surprising thing is they can be more ethical than other armies suddenly, and then people would look like, oh, we're the Europeans and so on, the NATO. Or, unfortunately, yes, the other way around could be even more terrible. And and so like, oh, we never had this mass killing, and that would create big opposition to North Korea. Okay, so now that we are seeing it live, we always knew that it could happen, but now that we are seeing it happening, we see how this Pluto square also plays a part in the sense that with grand power, there's also bigger enemies. Okay, so that is yet another thing with the telos of totalitarian leadership, but it is going back to, if we look at it, going back to expandable children. It's back to the culture of expandable children that are taught to be in these kill or be killed situations until only the strongest or only those who manage to kill everybody or for this bloodline and so on being put as leader and expected to do this on a world scale. So comes Pluto, comes Saturn, comes, an outer planet transit. And now we must remember that, as I said in my previous episodes, when talking about my own Neptune square, the Pluto square comes hand in hand with the Neptune square. Okay? And this means that as Neptune and Saturn kiss, it's going to be the Neptune square for Kim Jong Un as well. And what do we know about Neptune Saturn coming together? If you listen to S.J. Anderson, if you listen to Dan Waits, and a little bit of Austin Kopach, okay, we talks about it, mention this briefly sometimes. I think it was not in the podcast, it was with the runes guy. Okay, I need to go over my colleagues list. That's embarrassing. I had a glitch. So when you talk about the Neptune square, the Neptune Saturn, you talk about changes to countries that are of exactly the same structure as Russia, as China, as North Korea. Saturn Neptune, but the last time it happened around the 90s, the dissolution of the Soviet Union. And I was like, but BRICS just was it just born? We're gonna die now? We don't know. So this is already posing in. It doesn't have anything particular in Aries, except that the ruler is this Mars on the 22 of Aquarius with Saturn in Scorpio. So there's this reception between Mars and Saturn. They're not square relationships. By the way, yes, his Mars is square in mine. I said that already. And mine is retrograde, so mine is responsive. So, yes. But this is bringing it, and the Rahu in Aries eclipses, they are bringing this war, okay? They are bringing this, both conjoining the BRICS and this war and this power position. And with Neptune, you really have to surrender where it's all heading. And then Neptune is going to conjunct Saturn in Aries, which is going to be Kim Jong Un's Neptune square. So alongside with rising into power and having surrendering power at the same time, just Pluto, not delineated Neptune yet, you also have to surrender the outcome of the whole thing. And this Saturn is ruling his Mars. I don't know which is the worst malefic for him, okay? Because if it's day chart, it means Mars is most malefic. If not, Saturn. But anyway, because of the reception between Mars and Saturn, Saturn in Mars and in Scorpio, and Mars and Saturn sign in Aquarius, 22 degree, mind you, which is Saturn degree, and degree of death, okay, but intentional death, it's murder and assassination. Then anyway, but I also have it in my chart, anyway, there's a mix of good and bad whenever Saturn or Mars are activated, and now they are. Rahu is in Aries. The set of eclipses is placing Kim Jong-un through his Pluto square, through his Neptune square, in a place that is rising into power and surrendering power. And the notion of surrendering power as rising into power is very likely not new to him, okay? It's a child of the 22 degrees. And it's also a time where he's fatedly going viral, okay? So again, if you're having a bad day and you're having the Neptune square or the Pluto square, yes, and you're like, oh, what am I going to do with my life? I want you to take a look at Kim Jong-un's chart, and I want you to get into proportion. Because no one has it more visible than Kim Jong-un in this century. No one, okay? And this means that he's going viral. Now he's not this leader of this isolated country. Now he's the leader of the world. The expectation from him as leader of the world, okay? If you're a leader of this country that is isolated because you are totalitarian and oppressive, then expectations from you is like, okay, this is North Korea, you don't travel to North Korea. You don't say anything about North Korea because you don't want to piss anybody off. But when you are a leader of the world, it's the expectation for you to be a leader of the world. It's different expectation, both of other leaders and of their peoples, their citizens. Okay, because you don't want to get into, oh, North Korea is irrational player like they did to Iran. That is only barely coming out of this. Okay, and so of what the reason that they gave you this power and of what the expectation of the people and the leaders of when you take this position, there can be dissonance that you have to surrender. Because people say, yes, of course, you're welcome. Monsieur Kim Jong Un, you're welcome. You're welcome to participate. You're welcome. Come see our shows. Come see Europe. Come see Israel. Come see Gaza. Come see United States. Come participate. Yes, of course, this goes without saying that you have to respect women. You have to respect LGBTQ. You have to be open with the economy. You have to be respecting of freedom rights. You have to be all these things that can be a complete cultural shock. Okay? If you go into Netherlands and the shelter, the winter shelter, is for people who separate, okay, men and women with LGBTQ women, okay? And it's shocking for you. If you come from Algeria, from Iran, from Iraq, nobody gives a flying F. You have to be in this shelter and you have to be courteous and respectful, otherwise you're in the street. Okay? So this is where the Neptune part is, you're going viral, but now you are expected to different standards. Okay, this is what you can and cannot do. Again, even with this, then, with this Neptune come the remediation, that with this crisis you also receive harmonious Neptune aspects to support you. And this is where he would have to bring it from the surroundings. Okay, who brings the Neptune trine? And whose Neptune would be in sextile or trine relationship with his? First of all, the Neptunes that would be on his Pluto. So the generation of Peter the Vries, okay, those Pluto lines that go between Virgo and Leo, this the Regulus ones, the Regulus Plutos, would have a Neptune on his Pluto. It's conjuncting the Pluto, but what it's doing is sextiling the Neptune. Okay? But sextile from the other side, we still don't have Neptune in Pisces. The Neptune Pisces, sorry. The Neptune Pisces between Aquarius to Pisces. This generation would also, so we're talking about the people born in the mid-50s. That would be very remedial if they're not assassinated by now. Then, and you know what did I get, the first channeling I get from Peter the Vries? I was asking him about his death. I wasn't expecting anything to do with North Korea. This country is North Korea. Okay? Meaning his opposition, but I didn't know this. So you are North Korea. You are Kim Jong Un. Okay, so these people come from completely different place. We have to surrender your power completely for what you know. Okay, so it's been through this is wow. But their Neptune is sextiling your Neptune. This is where the thing is, and those will be the people that are going to say for their countries, everybody sell organs to get the passport for the country. Say, this country is North Korea, you're the North Korea. Okay, you're Kim Jong Un, you are North Korea. And yet, those are the people that you most need to be speaking with. Is complete surrender so that you can be receptive. Yes? But the other ones are the Neptunes that are in Aquarius going to Pisces. They are from the other side. Yes? They would also be sextiling. There's another type of people with the Neptune sextile. But they would have a Pluto that's conjuncting the Neptune, the natal Neptune. It's the Pluto-Sag generation, I believe, already. So there's always a hard aspect. When you come to the remedial, they bring in a hard aspect as well, but you also need a remedial because you need another point of view, okay? When I was traveling in Netherlands, where everybody traveled there to go to the shelter circus, the best place in the world, literally, okay, unless you're a Finnish citizen, and maybe not, I don't know, but to hear from a person, I was just trying to channel that person, and not about this topic at all, and immediately the first saying was, this country is North Korea, okay? And so these people are complaining on their countries because they don't want to be like the country that you are the head of. So North Korea is Kim Jong Un, and now it's those people that you need to meet, and those people are remedial to what you're going through, because when you become leader of the world, and what is Netherlands? Netherlands, it was before the right wing and before 2030, it was the country that was known that you can be who you are and that you are a citizen of the world. That was Netherlands. You are a citizen of the world. Complete polar opposites between a country like North Korea. But exactly these countries are remedial at this time, at this Neptune square, because they bring in the Neptune for something that maybe you've longed for. This is the polar opposite. What is the polar opposite of being in this very isolated, very closed country? Is to be a citizen of the world and a leader of the world. And that is the transition, okay, the change that is happening right now. This Netherlands, if people are afraid, is becoming North Korea, while North Korea might be becoming more like Netherlands, okay? And so, and I talked about, when I talked about, right-wing leaders talking about Sharia laws and rightfully don't like child marriage, while we are discovering that most of our leaders are expendable children that were inbred and horrid things, while Malawi chiefs, black women Malawi chiefs, abort the entire child marriage and break up all child marriages in their countries. And so you see how the world is changing. But upon the meeting of these two cultures, then you're like, oh, remember that North Korea you talked about? Well, they don't have the border control that you are wanting to instill. They are letting go of the border control that you are trying to instill, okay? And then for the North Korea, it's like, oh, remember these countries, the big West, this, that. They are complaining about the country that's becoming like North Korea. So this is very powerful transit. We talked about Pluto, we talked about Neptune. Let's talk about Uranus. Uranus has been through the Chiron of Kim Jong Un. Safe. Enough of this Uranus on the Chiron of Kim Jong Un. He doesn't have any point on Algol unless he has an ascendant or a midheaven there. So he's already been through what he's already been through the period where everybody said, God damn, this country is becoming North Korea, while North Korea is unbecoming North Korea. And so that was a very risky point for him. 22 degree, very risky point. That risk is off the limits right now. He can relax when it comes to that. So that threat, okay, whether it's and that threat maybe that could be around spouses or women in his life can be relaxed a bit. And so, and the passage is gone, okay? This is like if we're gone with this type of Uranus. Not going to be on the 22nd degree anymore. We've had enough. In all enough of enoughness, we have had enough, okay? So, but what, yes, Uranus is doing. So, Uranus is in a bisextile with the transit in Pluto and Neptune, and Pluto is heading from Capricorn to Aquarius, triggering this Mars, triggering this Saturn. Eclipse shade, very, very powerful eclipse shade. I would need to look also the chart for North Korea and his disdain to participate in a world war. So it's like, good morning, you're a world leader. Now you're part of a third world war. And this is, you know, we are at the point where Kim Jong Un would become the head of like the next P5. Okay, so if we think about those world events, okay, the P5 is the Security Council. You have the countries that can veto. These are the winners of the Second World War. Right now, they are Russia, China, France, Great Britain, and USA. And so, if you think about another world war, if you think about the dissolution of the UN, which is very likely to be, then you think about people, world leaders, could be, we might see North Korea as a part of a similar P5-like construction after the Third World War, okay, if we're not cautious enough to decentralize regime suffice in a suffice way, because what the P5 is doing is just creating corruption within the P5 members. This is okay. It was a way to try and manage the world like never before, but to now up to speed, we need Pluto Aquarius calls us for more decentralization, while Urano-Algol reminds us of the issues of will and consent, of treating the people that we think are crazy in a proper manner, and Algol is not one to mess with. So yes, all in all, very interesting events. Again, we don't have houses because we don't have ascendant and midheaven. And this is tropical astrology. It's very likely not the type of astrology that practiced in North Korea, which would also be fascinating to get to understand what the culture, what is the divination culture for North Korea, what are the symbols, or where, like all these many things we absolutely don't know anything about. And the wealth of knowledge that very likely does exist there that we don't know of. Okay, we just know of labor work and forced labor and prison, and nothing is allowed, and that's all we know of North Korea. Okay, that place that is scary to travel to, that now perhaps is changing. So yes, this is what I have to say about this chart. And I'll see you in another video. So thanks for sticking around.